Okay, here's the filter assembly, and it has a little metal can in it. I wanted to point out the metal flange here goes in the intake hose. The rubber sleeve on the end of the filter then goes over the top of that hose, and then the clamp fits in this groove. Messing up getting that in there, take your time, as if you were to screw it up, it would let the ATV ingest dirt, and that's one way you can ruin an engine. Anyhow, we'll just work this lip off the metal there and pull this little metal form. Yep, stuck on there pretty good. Took. Well, you get the idea. We'll get the little can out of the filter here, and go clean that up with the bio cleaner and get it started drying. I'm also going to go ahead and take off that little sock filter, and then there's another dark in there to see it, another little square piece of foam. I'll go ahead and clean those just the same way. I might also swab some of the massive accumulation of dust out of that filter box while I'm at it. Okay, well, we went ahead and used a torque wrench and torqued the drain plug to 25 Newton meters. Then we're going to go ahead and pull the filter cover. These taking this thing off, there doesn't seem to be much of a way to not get oil everywhere, but I've moved my drain pan underneath. I've also got a little cut-off jug here handy to take the old filter, and some paper towels handy. And it's just got these 3 8mm bolts that specify, I think it is 10 Newton meter torque, and a little 1/4-inch drive ratchet is handy to break them free. And then I've got a nut driver that'll be a little faster to back them off. And I've already taken a rag with some solvent and wipe the thing down a little bit. Try not to get dirt in the engine. So we'll pop that off real quick. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull the cover off here. A little cat food can there actually did a halfway decent job of catching a lot of that oil. Anyway, here you can see the plugged end of the filter goes towards the engine, and the end of the filter with the rubber ring there goes onto that flange right there on the cover. When we get the cover off, we will get rid of some of the oil there. We'll inspect the O-ring around the outside here, and then the oil passage through the cover is sealed by another O-ring that stayed on the block there. And put it back on. We'll be careful that it, we'll inspect it, make sure it's in good shape. We'll be careful it stays where it needs to be. And then the spring there in the center holds the oil filter where it needs to be, and we'll make sure that that didn't get knocked over or knocked out of place, and we'll just put a fresh filter on this and put it back together. Okay, as long as we're in the mood to drain fluid out of stuff, we're up here at the front differential. It has a 10mm drain bolt, and there's a hole under the little plate on the frame to access it. And there's a 17mm fill bolt right there. Generally a good idea when you're working on a transmission of any kind, or differential or whatever, to break free the fill bolt first. That way if it is seized or some other dingus is coming rounded it off or whatever, if you discover that after you've drained the oil, you're kind of screwed. And also it'll let air in so that it'll drain faster. So there's that. Again, we'll inspect the O-ring here on the cover, make sure it's in good reusable shape, as well as the crush washer that's on the drain bolt. To refill it, getting into small vehicles like this, I really like this. Just a baby bottle with the end cut out there and a piece of fuel hose zip tied on the bottle nipple there. Makes it really handy to get gear oil into tight places on small vehicles like this. Light moved. Okay, I've got that front end filled with oil and buttoned back up. I'm going to do the rear end, and there's a couple things that are different I wanted to point out. The back differential has some white over here, a fill plug right there on the top of the housing, and a level plug on the side of the housing. Basically pour oil into the top until it dribbles out that side hole. And also the drain is actually, let's get a shot of it there on the side of the housing. I went ahead and pulled the bash plate off just so it doesn't get oil everywhere. Also, that bash plate is pretty flimsy. I found mine got caved in right up onto that housing pretty frequently, and I'd have to pound it back, so I went ahead and welded a piece of strip steel across the bottom of it. And the other thing we're going to do while we're at the back of the quad is those 3 8mm, I believe they are, bolts there, let us pull the spark arrestor out of the muffler. It has a screen on it that needs to be brushed off every so often, and mufflers being prone to corrosion, once we get the bolts out there, we'll put some moly anti-seize on them when we put them back. Okay, so we've got the rear end there full of oil. Took it a little while for the excess to dribble out the fill hole and buttoned that up. I've also, while that was draining, poured engine oil into the engine until it was up above the full mark. That'll just be an initial fill. To get an accurate oil reading on these, because they're semi-dry sump, you need to let the engine idle 3 or 4 minutes with no throttle blipping, then let it sit for a couple minutes. Next thing we're going to deal with is something people skip, and that can cause you problems, and that's going to be the suspension and steering and alignment. If you have a wheel bearing going or a ball joint about to pop or whatever, catching it when you do your routine maintenance will prevent you from having an unsafe situation or something that can leave you stranded. So moving the handlebars back and forth, make sure there's no slops or clunky noises, anything like that. At the bottom of the steering stem, where the tie rods attach, is a little triangular shaped plate that's held to the bottom of the steering stem with a nut, and then there's a cotter pin across the end of the stem. The nut isn't a castellated nut, it's a normal nut, and the cotter pin basically just keeps it from falling all the way off. It doesn't keep it tight. So if you have slop in there, that's one place to look. You might need to hit that nut with some red Loctite and get it good and tight and put the cotter pin back on. So after that, we're going to go ahead and jack the machine up. That's good, get it off the ground good. And we're going to make sure the steering stem bearings moves smoothly from lock to lock. They seem fine. The other thing we're going to do is grab each tire and try to move it back and forth like that, like this one's actually doing. In fact, it's got slop in all directions. Anyway, if you have slop in it, you can get your hand in there and feel the tie rod. That's tight. No play in this one. And you can feel the ball joints. That's not moving either. Which basically tells me I've got a wheel bearing slopped out on this side. Also going to rotate the tires and make sure the brakes aren't binding up. And I'm going to look at these there's an inner and an outer rubber boot on each axle. And I want to make sure there's no cracks or holes where they got punctured by a stick or anything like that. So other than slopped out wheel bearing, it looks like I'm okay. Fortunately, I think I have a couple of wheel bearings here in my supplies. Let's get the jack over and get the other side off the ground. And we'll check the other side. That's tight. Nothing slopping or hammering on this side. So it looks like I've lost a left side wheel bearing. I'm going to go back to the back of the machine and also kind of pull and torque on the, it's a solid rear axle, so I won't have any ball joint problems or anything like that, but we'll move it around and make sure the pivots for the suspension are tight and there's no slop in like the shock mounts and that sort of stuff. So anyway, after that we'll go ahead and turn our attention to the brake system. I'm going to go ahead and set the quad back on the ground so I can loosen my front lug nuts without tipping it off the jack. And we'll jack it back up, take the front tires off so we can check the front pad wear and the condition of the little rubber boots there that cover the pins on which the calipers slide. If those get nicked up or deteriorate or whatever, they can seize up and cause a brake to drag. Looks like I'm in good shape though because nothing's dragging. Okay, here we've got a look at one of the front brakes. It turns out the play that I was seeing was actually in the wheel bearing, but for whatever reason the axle nut wasn't torqued to spec, so 22 millimeter socket and 78 Newton meters, and it's cotter pin back in and it's pretty tight now. Anyway, things we're going to look at on the brake here, there's a mark here on the caliper bracket and a mark on the caliper body, and if those were to line up, that's an indication that our brake pads are shot. As I mentioned before, the caliper rides on a couple of greased pins, allows it to slide back and forth and compensate for pad wear. If the brake were to be sticking, I'd suspect that those need to be taken apart and greased. You can see those two right there, and if I did need to replace the pads, these two bolts would allow me to pull the caliper up, and there's a anti-rattle spring above and below the pads, and I just take the pads out and stick new ones in and put it back together. It's pretty simple to do brakes on these. If these pins were binding up, I'd probably also end up pulling these two bolts that pull the caliper mounting bracket off, and that way I can This one I think actually rides in the caliper mounting bracket, and I can grease those up. So that's about it as far as making sure the pads are okay. Once you have the wheel off, you can also just look in from this side, and you can see that got plenty of pad. Also look at the brake rotor's condition generally. A few little minor grooves like that are pretty typical for a vehicle that runs around in rocks and debris and stuff like that, but if it were really scored up, I'd be thinking about replacing the rotor. And if I had any pulsation in the brakes when I was operating it, I'd be using a magnetic base and a dial indicator to check the runout on the pad, and also a micrometer to check its thickness. So that's pretty much it for that. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be changing the brake fluid on this machine. So first step is cleaning off the master cylinder reservoir cover. A little bit of contamination will really screw up the brake system, so we don't want to get any foreign matter in there. And then each caliper has a bleeder valve under this little rubber cover that has a 10mm hex. A person could have an assistant pump the brake, and then you could crack open the bleeder, hook a hose to it, and crack open the bleeder and push brake fluid out and close it. And have the guy close it before the brake lever hits the bar there, have the assistant grab another bite and crack it and pump brake fluid out, and takes a while and it's kind of a pain. So I've one of the nicest investments you can make tool-wise is one of these. It's a Mighty Vac hand vacuum pump. Comes with all sorts of fittings and hoses of different diameters and a little catch bottle. And in a nutshell, we'll just stick a 10mm wrench on that bleeder valve. I'll actually clean it off before I do this, again to not get any debris in anything, and stick my hose on it there, and we'll just suck all the old brake fluid out of both brakes and dump some clean brake fluid in the reservoir. Actually, I might actually suck any old brake fluid that doesn't drain out of the reservoir out of it, fill it with fresh fluid, and suck the fresh fluid through the bleeder valve the same way until I don't have any bubbles. One thing I might mention, you might get some bubbles from air seeping past the threads on the bleeder valve, and if that happens, we'll just unthread the bleeder valve and put some Teflon tape, normal plumber's pipe sealant tape, around the threads, not around the sealing surface, but around the threads of the bleeder valve, and put it back in, and that'll keep us from getting sort of false air bubbles, I suppose.